All right. And good day, everyone. And welcome to today's session of Truly Foundation in A Course in Miracles with your host and your guide and your temporary teacher and your temporary coach, Oliver Blue. And I'm delighted to be here, and I hope that you are. Whether you're watching this live and in color, or whether or not you're watching the replay, it does not matter. The only thing that really matters is love. I'm becoming convinced of that. The only thing that really matters in life is the expression of the four-letter word love. That's it. At the end of the day, at the end of a physical life or a temporary life, that's the only thing that matters. Why? Because that's the only thing that exists. That is the only thing in reality that exists. I'm going to put a pause right there because I want to change something on my viewfinder. So bear with me. All right. Thank you. Let me repeat myself. At the end of the day, at the end of a temporary life we call humanity, the only thing that really matters is love. I'm becoming totally convinced about that. The more I expand my understanding and my awareness of reality, of that which is real, that which is eternal, that which is infinite, that which is changeless and formless and timeless, I'm more and more convinced that that's where I should always come from, a place of love, a place of God, because that is the only thing that is eternal. That's why the word love is synonymous with God. In a lot of your wisdom writings, it says that God and love are synonymous. They say, and even the Bible says that God is love. And then it goes on to say that everyone that is born, or everyone that is created, or everyone that emerged from God emerges from love, or everyone that is born of God is born of love. And so, the more I experience this thing called life, the more I'm convinced about that. The more I'm convinced that that is our purpose in this temporary experience, is to discover the love that we are, or the love that we share with the one creator God. And so if you are like me and really want to know, what really matters in life, what's the most important thing in life, or things in life, then you would somewhat kind of concur with my statement. Somewhat, maybe not, but I believe that there is a concurrence here, that love is it. I'm going to do something here. I'm going to add some more people to the broadcast here. How about that? How about that? I just added another community to the broadcast. Let me check to make sure they came in. Let's see here. They did come in. So welcome all of you that are on my personal Facebook page. I just decided to add you to my daily post, my daily lesson out of A Course in Miracles. And I started out by saying that the longer I have this temporary experience called life, the longer I'm here in this incarnate form, the more I'm convinced that the only thing that really matters in life is love. The only thing that really, really, really matters in life is love. Or at the end of this humanity experience that we're having. Just think, you just think all of the things that we get involved with in form, in time, in space. When it's time to transition out of this experience into the next, just think, we don't take any of the form with us. We can't take any of the form with us. We can't take any of the experiences with us. None of it. All of it gets left behind. So what do we take with us when we transition out of this experience? I think we take with us the very thing that we brought with us. And the one thing that I know that we brought with us is love. Like we said, love is synonymous with the word God. And in scripture it says God is love. And that everyone that is created or born of God is born of love. That means all of us, with no exception, are here by means of love. And that love is really at the very essence of our nature. And I think that we all at some point discover on this journey called life, human life, that love is what we really have been looking for. And once you discover the love that you've been looking for, you really come to discover yourself. You really come to discover your creator, because you really come to realize that yourself and your creator share the same love, share the same being, share the same experience, share the same self. As much as we have been conditioned to think that we are these separate individual selves, separate and apart from one another and separate and apart from our creator, I think the real discovery is that there's only the one, and that we are that one. We are that I am. That I am. That doesn't exclude anything, but it includes everything. And in that discovery of self, we discover that all things are ours. All things are ours. And I'm not just talking about objective things or objects or things of form, but all things of value, all things of eternal nature, all things of infinite possibility. They are part of our nature. They are part of who we are. We came filled with the fullness of these things. As scripture says, we've been filled with the fullness of love, or filled with the fullness of God. It's just a matter of acceptance. Because out of discovery comes acceptance. We discover something that is so amazing. And then what is our response to that? When we discover, wow, I understand what my elder brother meant when he said, I and the Father are one. I understand now what my elder brother meant when he said, when you have seen me, you have seen the Father. When you have seen creation, you have seen creator. Or when you've seen creator, you've seen creation. Why? Because they're not separate. They're one and the same. It's this discovery of this reality of oneness that blows the natural mind. I like what the scripture says that the natural mind or the natural man knoweth not the things of the spirit, or knows not the things that are eternal. Why? Because it can only be understood through the eyes of love. It can only be understood through the eyes of oneness. It can only be understood through the eyes of spirit. That word spirit is just symbolic of oneness, just like the word Christ is symbolic of oneness. It's not a person or personality. It's a reality. And the reality is there is but the one, and we are all a part of that one source, that one life, that one breath, that one being, that one infinite intelligence, that one mind. We are a part of that. And that is the journey that we've all gone on. That's the detour that we've all taken to try to discover what was already there. And so when we come to the end of this process, we discover that we were on this journey, this earthly journey, or on this human journey. We realized that on this journey, there really was no distance. We hadn't gone anywhere, because we discovered that we were there all the time. We discovered that we were united in oneness with our Creator all the time. We realized that we were a part of all creation all the time. It never had been altered or changed. The only thing that needed to be adjusted was our mind, was our awareness or our consciousness of this truth. When that truth is discovered, life becomes such a beauty. Life becomes such enjoyable. Life becomes so simple. It's not complicated at all. We realize how much humanity has complicated this thing called life, only to our own pain and suffering and demise. But it's the same mind that went astray or went on this prodigal journey. It is that same mind that awakens and realized that it had been asleep to reality. We call that what? The awakening. We call that what? Transformation, or we call it enlightenment, or the new birth. We call it by many things, but ultimately it's a discovery of the truth of who we are, and that we remain as we were created. And creation doesn't mean that the source of all things took something and made something and say, hey, this is creation. No. The concept of creation is the concept of oneness. That the creation and the creator are one and the same. It's just an extension of this one thing. And so I know we've taken some time off here, and we're back, and we're on this backside of the mountain. We're on what they call the back stretch of headed down the grandstand to complete this project, where we started back on January 9th, 2022, where we embarked on completing all 365 workbook lessons out of our course book called A Course in Miracles. And we're on lesson 343. That means we only got 22 lessons left. But it's not going to be the end. It's going to be only the beginning. And so we're going to be looking at workbook lesson 343. And if you have been with us or haven't been with us, we're on lesson 343, and this is in the section called What is a Miracle? So in this section, there are 10 lessons, 341 to 350. And all these lessons support this idea about the idea of a miracle from the Course in Miracles perspective, not from our traditional idea of miracles, as most of us have been conditioned or trained from a supernatural perspective. But this is, like I said, this is simple. The Course has made life simple. And so what the Course says about what is a miracle, as it answers the question. You remember we went through the section on what is a miracle, and it started out with the very first sentence that answered the question. And it says that a miracle is a correction. It didn't say a miracle is some supernatural phenomenon. The miracle is not something that comes from God. It didn't say that. It didn't say that the miracle is a natural phenomenon. That's how we've been trained with that idea of what a miracle is. But here it simply says that it's a correction. That something needed to be corrected, and the miracle is the correction. So what do we mean by that? And it goes on to say that what needed correction was our perception. And our perceptions come from our way of thinking. Because what's involved with perception is interpretation. Because we live in a perceptual world. We live in a perceptual world. That basically means that we live in a world where nothing is constant, nothing is stable. Everything is moving, everything is changing form, that is, things are going from one form to another form. That you've heard me say this on this platform, that the only real stable thing in this world, in this three-dimensional world, the only thing that is really stable, or the only thing that is real, is our identity. We're the only eternal thing that's, that is here. Everything else is temporary. And I'm not talking about our bodies, because our bodies are not eternal. These bodies are just as temporal as the seat that you're sitting in, or the desk that you're looking at, or the computer that you're looking at, or the camera that you're looking at, or the phone you're holding in your hand. Everything that's in form is temporary, including the body. Anything that you can see with your eyes, hear with your ears, smell, touch, taste, is all temporal. We live in a temporal world. And all of that is transient. All of that is fleeting. All of that eventually will pass away. There's only one thing that's here in this 3D that will not pass away, is your true self, your true identity, the real you. Like we say here, the real you, which is love. And it's the real you that is love, that is the source of all the comings and goings, all of the shifting and the changing that happens in this three-dimensional world. It is you that is the source, or you are the architect. Humanity is the architect of everything that has happened in this world. Everything. You say, no, God is. I say, no, yeah, well, it cannot happen unless it happens through humanity. Nothing falls out of the sky. Nothing appears magically. as we would think. But every single solitary event, activity, every single solitary thing that is moved into form is moved through the mind of humanity. And at some point, humanity discovers that the power that be, that the source of the power is love. And that we are not something separate from God. And so a miracle is a correction. And the correction is in our perception. How we look at things and how we interpret what we're looking at. How we perceive things. And so the reason that the miracle is a correction, because something needs to be corrected. That means that an error has occurred somewhere, somehow. And the error did occur before there was time, before there was space, before there was an earth, before there was any form or any objective. An error occurred, and it occurred in the form of an idea. And we've said it many times here. That idea was a tiny, mad idea that totally and completely went against the one universal principle or the one universal consciousness, and that is oneness. And what that error introduced was an idea of separation, that oneness could be split in half and separated and divided and then divided again and divided and filled with billions and trillions and gazillions of separated things. 8 billion people separate. 8 billion different bodies separate. And all the objects in this world, just look around you in the room that you're in, and all these different things that you see. None of them seems to be joined together, but they all seem to be separate, right? That's part of their whole idea. That's what grew out of the tiny mad idea of separation. And so that's where the error occurred. It occurred in the mind, in the thought, in the form of an idea. And so the correction had to be brought to our awareness in order to undo the error that was in our perception. So correction is basically undoing. It's not something new. It's just the undoing of an idea. But even in the process of us embracing an idea of separation, it didn't really change anything. It didn't really change the truth or alter reality. Heaven remained intact. Love remained the love that is unalterable and unchangeable. Reality remained intact. Nothing really occurred. It only occurred in the mind. And in that occurrence, the mind seemed to split itself off from its source and begin to make things that are contrary to the oneness, to the reality of the oneness that is the only existence that exists. And thus humanity. And thus we created a world based on that separation. And thus we've got the multiplicity. Thus you have the complexity. Thus you have everything that is opposite of love. And then we are brought here in an experience to try to find love, or to refine the oneness that was seemingly lost. And though we search for ourselves, we were searching for ourselves because we appear to be disconnected from the one self that we all share. So we're all on a journey to rediscover one self that we share with love, that we share with God, that we share with reality, that we share with truth. And so we're here to what? Correct the error, to undo the error. And here the Course said that is the miracle. And that when this occurs, it says it paves the way for the return of our reality. It paves the way for the discovery of your true self as an infinite being, as a self-aware being. That's what the discovery is. That you discover that you are one with this one source that exists, that you are one with love. You are one with God. You are one with all living things. Never to be separate. Never to be divided. Never to be displaced or disconnected. Never to be forgotten. Love has forgotten no one. So, what does the miracle really does? The miracle, it inverts our perception so that now we see from the perspective of oneness. We see from the perspective of truth or reality. Because in that belief in separation, we all got the virus of an upside down orientation. We begin to see things from an upside down perspective. We begin to see things from a wrong perspective. And thus we created systems and processes and ideas, and we promoted those all through the history of humanity. And now we're here in 2023, and the rediscovery process still is taking place. But the good news is there's a grand awakening happening every day and everywhere among all people. There's never been as many awakened beings on the planet at one time as there are right now. You know, in politics, they make a joke about wake. Oh, yeah, they're talking about wake. They make a joke about the very thing that they're really searching for. Because that's what life is all about. It's about your and my and all humanity's discovery of self, which we just use the term the awakening. That's what it's all about. If you haven't discovered that that's what your life is all about, the real of yourself and your source, then live a little longer. Because everything has been orchestrated towards your awakening. Every single solitary event or condition or circumstance, every single solitary happening in this three-dimensional world is being used to bring you and me and all of us to a place of discovering of our true self, be it in joy or pain. But it's all being used to wake us up. It's all being used to bring us to a place of correction, where we begin to see ourselves for who we really are. And not only ourselves, but all the one selves that exist. So that we can let the world go free. And when I say the world, I'm talking about the world is no more than a false belief. Humanity's false belief about himself. Because it's out of that false belief that we created what we call the world. So the world can never be fixed. The only thing that can be fixed is humanity's perception. And then the world will completely be perceived in the right way. Once we are, our perception is correct. And the Course calls it true perception. It's true perception. Now I'm seeing what? Through the eyes of God. Now I'm seeing through the lens of love. Now I'm seeing correctly. You know how the song goes, I can see clearly now that the rain has gone. What is the rain? The rain represents all that falsity, all of that unreality, all of that error that we place in between us and reality. That's the rain. But when we wake up and discover who we are, immediately the rain of the ego thought system, the rain of sin consciousness, guilt, and fear, and the fear of death, the rain, REIGN, not RAIN, but the rain. In other words, the dominating thoughts, the dominating idea of separation will immediately be removed. The scales will fall from our eyes and we'll begin to see that which is real versus that which is not real. We'll be able to, like the Course says here, we'll be able to look past devastation. We'll be able to, right here, it says, this is part of the miracle. That when the correction is made, that we'll be able to look on the devastation in the world. Basically, look past it and remind ourselves, remind the mind that what it sees is not real, that what it sees is false. So the miracle undoes error, but it doesn't attempt to go beyond perception, nor exceed the function of forgiveness. Thus, it stays within the limitation of time. It paves the way for the return of timelessness in our thinking, in our perceiving. It paves the way for love's awakening in our minds. That's what the miracle does. It points us to the truth. For fear must slip away. What is the fear? The belief in separation. That which we have placed or in between us and love. It's finally removed. And it says the fear must slip away under the gentle remedy that the miracle brings, that correct perception brings, that correct seeings bring. So there's the one thing that needs correction in all of the world, all of this complex world and reality. If we're going to ever have the universal peace that we so desire, this universal, loveliness that we all desire, this universal abundance that everyone's sharing equally, it comes through correct seeing. It only will come through correct seeing. It will never be legislated. It can't be legislated. It's already present. And its present is not informed, but it's in formlessness. It's in correct seeing. It's in correct understanding. It's in correct knowing. When you know, like Jesus said, you shall know the truth, and the truth that you know shall make you free. It is the truth that makes us free. Nothing else can make one free. We just passed through the celebration of our country's, what they call Declaration of Independence, which is a proclamation of our freedom, of the nation's freedom. But that was a real freedom. Real freedom cannot be legislated. It cannot be legislated. Real freedom is a gift, and it has been given freely to everyone. And the discovery of that, when one discovers who they really are, their true identity, that's where freedom begins. That's true freedom. And so, that's what the miracle is. There's a section in the front part of the Course in Miracles. I love it. It's actually chapter 1. It says the meaning of miracles, and there are 50 miracle principles that it lists here, just to help us to understand what the Course means when it says A Course in Miracles. It says there is no order and difficulty of miracles. One is not harder or bigger than another. They are all the same. They are all expressions of love. So a true miracle is an expression of love, and it has the power and the ability to make correction, regardless what the situation or circumstance or condition is. It says that it is not, one situation is not harder than another, but an act of love will cure all. It says miracles as such do not matter. That the only thing that really truly matters is the love that inspires them. The love that is at the source of the miracle. That is the only thing that matters. What is that? The source of the miracle? It is love. Remember I said when we first started the broadcast here, the only thing that matters is love. The only thing that really matters in life is love. And when you discover that you were born of love or created out of love, that the essence of your being or the essence of who you are, the essence of your nature is love, then every correction that could ever be made is inside of you. It's not out there, but you already possess it. You are already filled with the fullness of love, the fullness of God. You filled with the glory of reality. It's already present in you. There's nothing missing in you. There is nothing broken in you. It's a matter of your awareness. It's a matter of removing the blocks to the awareness that love is always present. That is the aim of this course. Not to define love. Love cannot be defined. Why? Because love is all-encompassing. Words cannot define that which is all-encompassing. It can just point us. It can direct us. But the aim of this course, the aim of life, the aim of your life is to remove the blocks that we have placed in between us and love. And every block that we have placed among ourselves and love is not real. It's not eternal. It's not permanent. It's just a thought or an idea. The only thing that keeps you from the experience of your full self, your true self, like they say, I want to experience my best self. Well, to experience your best self, you're going to have to remove some things. There's going to have to be some correction. And not outer correction, but inner correction. And the inner correction we call a miracle. And the miracle is that we discover that there is nothing between us and love. In fact, what we come to discover is that we are love. We are loving, and that we are lovable. Because that's the nature of our existence. That's the nature of God. There's the nature of reality and the nature of truth, and we're one with that. That's the miracle. So the only thing that matters is the love that inspires them. So in this sense, everything that comes from love is a miracle. It says all miracles mean life because it promotes life. And God is the giver of life, or love is the giver of life. It says that miracles are habits and should be involuntary. They should not be under our conscious control. Because when they're under our conscious control, he says they're misguided. He says miracles are everyone's right. But the purification is necessary first. What is the purification? The purification is your acceptance of your true self. The purification is your having a correction in your perception where you see everyone as one, where you see the face of Christ in everyone, and you remember love, and you remember God, and you remember yourself. It says miracles are healing because they supply a lack. They are performed by those who temporarily have more for those who temporarily have less. They're kind of an exchange. Like all expressions of love, which are always miraculous in the true sense, the exchange reverses the physical laws. They bring more love both to the giver and to the receiver. I love this. It's 50 of these principles in here. And as you read them, you begin to expand your awareness that you are love, that you are the miracle yourself. And that miracles are like a chain of interlocking lessons of forgiveness, which, when completed, is the atonement or the at one ment. In other words, we discover our oneness with everyone and everything. That's the idea of atonement, the at one ment, that all things are one thing, that we are not separate, but in reality, we're one. It says miracles are example of right thinking, aligning our perception with the truth as God created it, aligning our perception with our true identity, where we begin to have a self-image of ourselves that is in total alignment with the Creator's image of us, which is the image of himself or herself or itself. Oh, there's just so many here. I'll read a few more. It says the miracle acknowledges everyone as yourself. Everyone as yourself and as God's self. The miracle acknowledges that there's only the one, that God is, and there is nothing else. Therefore, we are a part of the God is, which he calls the I am. So God is, therefore I am. That's why you say that more than any other phrase you have said all your life. You say, I am this, I am that, I am. But you got to be careful with what you put on the other side of the I am. Are you putting truth on the other side of I am, or are you putting falsehood? Because you have the power, and you're having the power to experience your I am. So what are you saying you are? Because you will experience that. The miracle acknowledges everyone as yourself and as the God self. It is a way of perceiving. Notice now, in a perceptual world, you have to perceive. It says, so it is a way of perceiving, and it's true perception, but it's a way of perceiving the universal mark of God everywhere. When the mind has been corrected and sees correctly through the mind of God or through the eyes of Christ, how we say it, however you want to say it, through the eyes of wisdom, whatever we want to use. Doesn't matter. But when one sees correctly, then it says that it sees the universal mark of God everywhere. That's what Jesus meant when he said, the pure in heart shall see God. Where? Everywhere. That's what Jesus meant when he said that the kingdom of God has been spread out among all among all the world, all over the world. He said the kingdom is here, the kingdom is now, the kingdom is present, and it's everywhere. That's what he meant. He said, but people won't see it because they're looking outward. And the kingdom is not an outward observation, but it's an inward knowing. It's an inward acknowledgement that we're all one, that we're all one and the same, that we're all in this one unity, this one universe. That word universe means, uni means one, verse means song, that we're all part of this one song called life. This one song called love. To share with love. We share this love. So it comes down to our perception. It comes down to our thinking. Are we thinking with the mind of God, or are we thinking with a split mind? Are we thinking from an idea of separation, which the Course calls the ego thought system or the ego way of thinking? Are we really truly seeing through the eyes of Christ? Or are we seeing through the eyes of separation? Are we buying into the world message of separation and division and separation, where everything is divided and subdivided and divided even more, to where humanity becomes so dizzy in its upside down orientation that it sees an enemy everywhere, that it sees, it doesn't see love. It only sees hurt and pain. And it thinks that it's real. It only sees death, and it thinks it's real. Well, that's what the miracle here is here to correct. That is what the miracle is here to correct. And so that's why the title of our source is called A Course. This is a course. We're taking a course. We're in training. We're in study. You remember Paul told Timothy, study. You better study to show yourself approved. You can't depend on someone else's idea. You can't depend on someone else's experience. You have to discover for yourself. You have to do your own self-inquiry. That's what study is. It's a self-inquiry with an idea. Is this idea in alignment with love? Is this idea that has been shared with me? Does it align with peace? Does it align with abundance? Does it align with equality? Does it align? Is it consistent with love? If there's any fear around, if there's any guilt around, if there's any consciousness of sin around, then that lets you know that it's not in alignment with purity or love. And so you have the power to reject any idea that is not of love. Any idea that the creator or the source of life is unloving, you have the ability to reject that, regardless of what form it comes in, even if it comes in the form of religion, even if it comes in the form of politics, even if it comes in the form of the arts or the science, or even if it comes in the form of entertainment, even if it comes in the form of an image. You have the power to either accept or reject any ideas that would ascertain or would entertain the idea that the creator of life is unloving in any way. God is light. Love is light. And as the scripture says, there is no darkness in light. In love, there is no darkness. In the source of life, there is no darkness. Darkness only pervades the mind that believes that it's separate. It's a wrong idea. And when we embrace that wrong idea, when we begin to see ourselves as separate from God or separate from love or separate from reality or separate from one another, that's a dark idea. It's not reality. And you have the ability to reject that. You have the ability to reject anything that is not of love. And when I say reject it, in other words, you don't embrace it as your own idea. There was a time in your life when you didn't know any better. There was a time in your life when you was totally dependent on those that were nurturing you, those that were raising you, those that had stewardship over you. And you was like an open book. And others were sharing their beliefs, their ideas with us, and we embraced them as our own, even though they may not have been true. But there came a point in your life where you could now what? You could start making decisions for yourself. That's why self-inquiry is so important for your evolution, to inquire for yourself about what is real and what is not. So important. You don't give that away to others. You don't give that freedom to others to determine for you what is real and what is not, what is loving and what is not, what is equity and what is not. But no, it is a part of your nature. It is a part of who you are to come to discover that. And so we study. That's what this whole platform is about, providing a place, a safe place for you to come and study and hear the realities and the truths from all of the avenues of life. And there are many. It's not just one. But the idea of oneness that we share, it is in many places, in many forms, in many courses, in many books, in many ideas. So let me get back over here to my lesson 343. So today's lesson 343 says, I am, see there that I am, I am not asked to make a sacrifice. Let's say that again. I am not asked to make a sacrifice. You are not asked to make a sacrifice. No one is asked to sacrifice anything. However, we've been highly trained that, we sacrifice. It's good to sacrifice, or, we should make sacrifices, even unto God, even unto each other. Oh, we should sacrifice for our children. But here it says, we're not asked to make a sacrifice. Because a sacrifice, which has its roots in the word sacred, has to do with a belief or an idea that death is required. That death is required. It's a requirement of life. It is your ticket to freedom. That's where this idea comes from. It has the idea of guilt and judgment and sin consciousness. And that all comes out of this belief in separation. So we've been highly trained that sacrifice is a requirement. And we've had whole religions built on that idea. We've had so many innocent living creatures killed, sacrificed on an altar. Because of that error in our thinking. So we go and grab something innocent and we kill it as a way of getting rid of the sin consciousness and guilt. But you'll notice that it never, even scripture says, that all of the blood that the priest was standing in the altar, it never got rid of the consciousness of sin. Because it's not in the sacrifice. In fact, Hebrews went on to say that God was never pleased with any sacrifices that was offered unto them. How can we offer something dead unto something that is alive? The two don't mix. Sacrifice is part of the era. There is no requirement. There is no sacrificial requirement. If God requires anything of you, if God required anything of his creation, then his creation would not be in God's image and likeness, because love requires nothing, because love is everything. So there is no requirement on your part or anyone's part in order to be accepted. You already are a part of the beloved of God. You're already a part of the beingness that God is, that love is. And for God to require that of any part of himself would be a denial of his own loving self. So the lesson today, the miracle, when the correct perception has been made in our thinking, we realize that there is nothing to sacrifice. That all that love is perfect and pure and whole and complete. That God didn't make a mistake or an error. That love did not make a mistake or error. Or that reality did not make a mistake or an error. It was just a tiny mad idea that we gave our attention to momentarily. And so when we turn away from that tiny mad idea back to the light, the truth that we are, then we realize there's no need, there's nothing to sacrifice. I remain as God created me. Nothing has really occurred. That's why forgiveness is so powerful, because you realize nothing has really occurred. That which I thought my brother did to me, he did not do. Nothing really occurred. All of the offenses, all of the history that conjures up the idea of sacrifice, the idea of humanity being guilty. And all the while we're sitting here reading where the wisdom of God says that we are blameless and that we are holy and blameless before him in love. We read the books that tell us that, but then we choose to carry the guilt and the sin consciousness and the fear because we've been wholeheartedly developed in it. And so that's why the miracle needs to happen, the correction in our thinking, the correction in our perception, so that we can see ourselves as we are in truth, as holy and blameless and irreprovable in the sight of love, that we see ourselves as love itself. That is the miracle. Some of us need to apply the miracle to ourselves. We need to embrace the correction. We need to say, I am as God created me. And that, like it says here, I am not required or asked to sacrifice anything because everything is cool. Everything is good. In fact, everything is very good. I am very good, just the way that my Creator created me. I'm just holly jolly fine. I just need to embrace the way I was created. I need to say to myself, I am that which God created. I am. And so it says, it says, I am not asked to make a sacrifice in order to find the mercy and the peace of God. Why? Because the mercy and the peace of God is already given. The peace is in my mind. The peace is in my essence. The mercy of God, which means that God has given everything. That means that I'm not lacking anything. That is mercy. That is grace. And it can't be changed or altered. And I don't need to make a sacrifice in order to embrace that reality. So when the correction comes, when the miracle of correct thinking, correct perception, when I embrace it as my own, then the end of suffering cannot be lost. The end of suffering cannot be lost. In other words, the end of suffering has occurred and it cannot be lost. And that the gift of everything can be but gained. Why? Because I've been given everything. And that I am only a giver. Has created us to be just like itself. If love never sacrifices, guess what? I never sacrificed. It says, so sacrifice becomes impossible for me as well as for you. It's impossible for you to sacrifice anything because you've been given everything. And so it says, I too must give like my source. And so all things are given unto me forever and forever. As I was created, I remain. You remain. What God created can make no sacrifice. For we must be complete right now, having the function of completing our Creator right now. I am complete because I am the creation of God. You are complete because you are the creation of God. Therefore, there is no need for sacrifice. Because what God created is whole and complete and perfect. You are whole and complete and perfect. I am, for I can only give. And everything is mine eternally. Everything's eternally, equally. So there's no need for sacrificial. That whole idea of sacrifice, it has got the religious world turned upside down in fear, thinking that God would even think about sacrificing what he created. And so we fear God because we feel like God will eventually sacrifice us. And so that whole idea has at its very nature fear and guilt. And guilt and fear don't come from God, because guilt has torment. You think God is the giver of torment? You think that love is the giver of torment? Absolutely not. So where's it coming from? Coming from humanity. It's coming from our belief in that tiny mad idea that we were separated from our Father, that we were separated from each other. We have to let that go. We have to allow the miracle, the correction to come in and undo that error. You have to begin to think with the mind of God. You have to begin to think with the mind of Christ, as the scripture says. So let this mind be in you that was also in Christ, who been in the form of God. When he was a man, he was in the form of God. You are in the form of a man. You are in the form of God. As a person, as a human, you are in the form of God. He said, being in the form of God. As a man, he thought it not robbery to be equal with God. We have to get to the point where we come to understand that we're not robbing or taking anything from love or from God or from reality by saying that we have equality with it, which means that we have been given everything that God is equally. There is the mind of Christ. And when you get the mind of Christ, you realize what? There's nothing to sacrifice. There's nothing to sacrifice. And so, in conclusion, lesson 343. The mercy and the peace of God are free. Let's say it again. The mercy of God, or the mercy of love, and peace are free. Doesn't require bloodshed. It doesn't require sacrifice. That's a man-made idea. And you've seen all the blood that humanity has been responsible for shedding. Innocently, or innocent blood that has been shed throughout all humanity history because of wrong thinking, because of erroneous thinking that they have to sacrifice, because of guilt and sin consciousness and fear that came from the idea of separation. So the only thing that really needs to be corrected in the world is the belief in separation. In my life and in your life, you become the experience. You become the evidence. You become, like you said, faith is the evidence of things hoped for. You become the substance of freedom. You realize that you are the light of the world. That word light means freedom. You are the proof that sacrifice is no requirement of love. That we have been given this freedom in creation and can never be taken away from us. That's why they could lock you up in the deepest dungeon. You could be put in the most dire strait situation. And when you know who you are, you maintain your peace. You stand in the mercy of God. And you transcend all of the falsehood of this world. You transcend it. Nothing can separate you from the love of God. Not birth, nor death, nor life, nor things present or things to come. That's what Paul said. Nothing created, nothing made, nothing in the past, nothing in the future, nothing in the present. Absolutely, positively nothing can separate you from the love that we share as one. But you have to know this for yourself. Mommy can't give it to you. Daddy can't give it to you. You have to discover this for yourself. And so salvation has no cost. Not the salvation of God. It has no cost. Because from God's perspective, nothing has occurred. And when you discover that nothing has really happened, then you realize there is no cost to pay. Costs only come as a result of a guilty conscience or guilty mind. Where does the guilt come from? The belief in separation. Get rid of the belief in separation. And you've gotten rid of all of the idea of separation, all of the idea of sacrifice and cost. It is a gift that must be freely given and received. Salvation is a gift that has been freely given in creation and freely received in creation. We just need to wake up to it. And it is this, what? That has been freely given and freely received, that we would learn and apply today. Today is the day of learning and applying the reality of your truth as a free and equal and complete and whole and fulfilled creation of love. This is who you are. This is your reality. And it transcends everything, every idea that we have made that is contrary to that. You have the final word in your life. No one else does. You have the final word. When your final word is love, when your final word aligns with truth, you will experience, it will be a direct experience of your freedom, a direct experience of love. And that love shines through your life in every area of your life. And you see only love. You teach only love. You teach only forgiveness. You don't tell people to hold a grudge. You don't tell people, oh yeah, you're right in holding that. No. You're promoting the separation. We are not justified in holding any grievances against anyone. Our only justification is love. And in love, everything and everyone goes free. I know that's not the way of the world. That's why the world is what? That's why the world is in what? Turmoil. That's why people are depressed and filled with anxiety, because they're hanging on to that world idea. And all the time within themselves, all the time within ourselves is the peace and the mercy of God. Waiting on our acknowledgement, waiting on our acceptance. And so, like you see that little ticker running across my screen there? That's why we say that here. That's why I let it run all the time in this environment, in this platform. I let it run as a reminder that truly, truly, the real you is love. The real you loves you. That's what truly means. Truly. The real you loves you. Why? Because the real you is love. It's who you really are. The real you is God. This is who you really are. Because God is love, and so are you. There is no difference. There's no separation. Can you embrace that? Yes, you can. And that's what we're learning today. So, we no longer embrace the idea of sacrifice. There's no need for it. Like I said at the beginning of this broadcast, the only thing that matters is love. Because that's the only thing that there is. That is the only thing that is eternal here in this three-dimensional world. And you are part of the love. An equal part that cannot be separated or divided. It can only be shared. You are the light of the world. So let the light shine in all your relationships. Let the light shine in all of your motives. Let the light shine. The light of love. That is your best self. That is your only true self. That is the real you that loves you. Thank you so much for being here with me today. I don't take it for granted that people listen to what I have to say. So if you're listening to the live or the replay, I honor you. I thank you for that. I think there's some benefit in what is being shared here in this platform. These are the thoughts of God. These are not my thoughts. These are the thoughts of reality. It's every thought of God that we share here. And it's all coming from a place of love. Like they've said, the miracle. It is not the miracle that's important. It is the love that inspires it. Love is inspiring you to join in your reality with it and to let it shine. And you can do it. You want to do it. This is your greatest expression of yourself. You want to do it. You don't no longer want to be conformed to this world, but you want to be transformed by the renewing of your mind. That your mind come in alignment with the love that you are, with the love that we share. Thank you so much. Namaste. Until next time. Bye-bye.